It was a chilly morning in a quiet American town. One of those places where everyone knew your name, and the scent of freshly baked bread from local bakeries painted the streets with warmth. But on that gray Thursday, something remarkable was about to unfold, something so quietly beautiful. It would stay in the hearts of those who saw it. A little girl stood outside a bakery window. Her name was Emily. She was no more than 7, wearing a faded pink coat and scuffed up shoes with the laces tied unevenly. Her hair, the color of cinnamon, was tied into 2 lopsided pigtails that danced in the wind. In her tiny hands, she clutched an old plastic container with a cracked lid. Inside it were coins, some shiny, some dull, but each one a treasure she had worked hard to gather. She wasn't looking at toys or candies in the window. She was staring at a single chocolate cake, sitting proudly on the display shelf inside the bakery. It was modest. No frosting swirls or fancy writing. But to Emily, it was the most beautiful thing in the world. Behind the counter stood Mr. Hawthorne, the bakery's owner. A man in his 60s with white hair and a heavy brow. He had seen a lot over the years. Veterans, widows, new fathers, and dreamers had all walked into his shop. But lately, business had slowed, and kindness had become rare currency in a world obsessed with speed and profit. From behind the glass, he saw the little girl again. 3rd day this week. She'd come at the same time, stand for 10 minutes, stare at the cake, and then walk away without entering. Most people would have dismissed it. But Mr. Hawthorne didn't. That morning, Emily walked into the shop for the first time. A soft jingle rang out as the door opened. Her feet tapped softly across the wooden floor. The scent of vanilla, butter, and cocoa seemed to hug her. She stood in front of the counter like she was standing before a king, eyes wide, container held tightly to her chest. Mr. Hawthorne leaned forward, peering over his spectacles. "Well, good morning, young lady." She swallowed, cleared her throat, and said with all the courage a 7-year-old could muster, "I'd like to buy the small chocolate cake in the window." He raised an eyebrow. "That one, the birthday cake." She nodded. Opening the container, coins jingled, nickels, dimes, a few quarters, and even some pennies. They weren't sorted, and she didn't know how much she had, but her face was glowing with hope. He didn't say anything for a moment. Just watched her pour the coins onto the counter. "My mom's birthday is tomorrow," Emily whispered. "I've been saving since last month. She loves chocolate." The Mr. Hawthorne looked down at the pile. It was nowhere near enough, but the cake cost $12. She barely had 6. But there was something in her voice, in her eyes. A kind of love so rare, so fierce, it made him forget for a second that he was running a business. He cleared his throat, then spoke softly. "Let me count these." He slowly sorted the coins, while Emily stood on tiptoe, watching every move. She wasn't sure how much she had, but she believed in the goodness of the world and the power of her efforts. When he finished, he looked at her. "You have $6.14. She bit her lip, blinking quickly. Can I still buy the cake?" He wanted to say yes, he really did. But part of him hesitated. Business hadn't been good. Giving away things for free had cost him before. And yet, looking at her, he saw not just a customer, but a child fighting the world with hope as her only weapon, and he leaned down. "That cake's a bit more than what you have, sweetheart." Emily didn't cry. She didn't beg. Instead, she nodded quietly, scooped up her coins, and whispered, "Okay, I'll try to save more. I just hope I can get it before tomorrow." Then she turned, and that walk to the door, shoulders slumped, but steps still soft, was the kind of moment that breaks something in you. Just before she reached the handle, Mr. Hawthorne spoke. "Wait." She turned around, eyes wide with a flicker of renewed hope, pretended to sigh. "You know what? I just realized something. That cake in the window has a small chip in the base. Can't sell it like that. Might as well let it go for a discount, Emily gasped. Really? He nodded. $6.14 sounds about right. She beamed. Oh, how she beamed! She ran up, handed in the coins, easy, and held the cake box like it was the most precious thing in the universe. Thank you, sir, she said, her voice trembling. You don't know what this means. As she skipped out of the bakery, sunlight pierced through the clouds. Mister. Hawthorne watched her disappear down the sidewalk, her pigtails bouncing with each step. That night, he couldn't sleep. He thought about Emily, the coins, the cake, and the kind of world we live in, a world where a little girl has to save for weeks to give her mother a single birthday surprise. A world where kindness shouldn't feel like a sacrifice. The next morning, the bakery door opened again. But this time, it wasn't Emily. Easy, it was her mother. She looked tired, her eyes puffy, her clothes plain. She carried the cake box, and in her hands was a note, handwritten in child's scrawl. Happy birthday, Mommy. I love you more than all the coins in the world. She placed it on the counter. I just wanted to say thank you, she said quietly. My daughter told me what you did. She doesn't know how much the cake really cost, but I do. Mister. Hawthorne opened his mouth to speak, but she held up a hand. I'm a waitress. I work double shifts. Emily's been picking up pennies off the sidewalk, helping neighbors carry groceries. Anything to save for this? I don't have much, but I just wanted you to know. This meant the world to me. There were tears in her eyes. Not a pity, but of gratitude. Mr. Hawthorne simply nodded, his voice caught in his throat. That evening, he took out an old wooden sign he hadn't used in years. He placed it in the bakery window. Pau, wow, can. Easy, EVRD, DESRVS, ACLE, OFWNS. Didn't know what would happen. Maybe people would take advantage. Maybe the bakery wouldn't survive, but somehow he didn't care. Sometimes, the smallest acts, like a girl with scuffed shoes and a heart full of love, are the ones that change us forever. The old wooden sign in the bakery window became more than just a message. It became a symbol. Pay I wow at o can. EVRDIS a CEO F stastutines. It stood quietly, day after day, like a whisper of hope to every passerby. And though no headlines were written about it, no cameras came to document the shift, something was changing in the town of Willow Creek. It started slowly. A boy named Tyler came in next. Freckles across his nose, grass-stained jeans, and a shy voice. He held a wrinkled dollar bill in his hand. I don't have enough, but it's my little sister's birthday. Mister? Hawthorne didn't ask questions. He just handed over 2 cupcakes tied with a bright ribbon. Tyler's face lit up like Christmas morning. As he turned to leave, he paused. My dad fixes cars. If you ever need help with yours, we owe you. A word spread, not by marketing or flyers, but through warm-hearted whispers. Kids began dropping by, some with pennies, others with nickels and dreams. Each story different, but somehow all the same. They were trying to give, trying to make someone smile. For the first time in years, Mr. Hawthorne smiled more than he frowned. His hands, once stiff from arthritis, seemed to move with new life as he baked late into the night. Flour dusted his apron like snowfall. The register didn't always ring full, but the shop was fuller than it had ever been. One morning, just as Mr. Hawthorne was unlocking the front door, he noticed something taped to the glass. It was a child's drawing. Crayons on scrap paper. A picture of the bakery with a stick, figure man wearing glasses, and kids holding cakes, smiling. Beneath it were 4 words written with happy. He didn't recognize the handwriting, but it didn't matter. It was the kind of thing that made waking up at 5 a.m. feel worth it. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in shadows, stretched across the sidewalk, a black SUV pulled up outside the shop. It was clean, polished, out of place in the humble neighborhood. The driver stepped out, a woman in a tailored navy suit with heels clicking sharply on the pavement. She entered the shop and looked around. Her eyes scanned the pastries, the sign, and finally landed on Mr. Hawthorne. "Are you the owner?" He nodded cautiously, wiping his hands on his apron. "That's right. My name is Jenna Monroe. I work with the State Small Business Recognition Committee. We were told about your pay, what you can model. Easy, some students wrote letters about it." She reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of drawings, notes, and stories written by children, parents, and teachers. One letter caught his eye. It was written by Emily, the little girl who started it all. It read, "Oh, Mr. Hawthorne helped me buy my mommy a cake when I didn't have enough. He said it had a crack, but it didn't. He just wanted me to be happy. My mom said not everyone does nice things without wanting something. But I think Mr. Hawthorne is magic. He read it 3 times. Jenna continued, "Well, I'd like to feature your bakery in a special project about community impact. We have some grant money too, for local heroes like you. Would you be open to that?" Mr. Hawthorne wasn't used to attention. He shook his head slowly. "I didn't do anything special, just gave a kid a cake." Jenna smiled. "Sometimes that's exactly what changes the world." The feature aired on a local TV station, then a regional one, then national news picked it up. Before long, Hawthorne's Bakery became a household name. Donations poured in. Volunteers showed up to help. Even a food company offered to sponsor a monthly Sweetness Day, where everything was free. But Mr. Hawthorne didn't let it get to his head. He still opened at sunrise, still cleaned the counters himself, still kept the sign in the window. Meanwhile, Emily was quietly watching it all unfold. Her mom's birthday had passed, but the memory of that day lived on. Her mom kept the cake box folded neatly in a drawer and read the note every night like a prayer. One Saturday morning, Emily returned to the bakery. She had a new dress on, one that actually fit, and her hair was tied neatly. She walked in holding a small paper bag. "Hi, Mr. Hawthorne," she chirped. He looked up and smiled. "Well, if it isn't my favorite customer, what can I get for you today?" Emily shook her head. "Not here to buy." She placed the bag on the counter. Inside were 3 cookies, homemade, a little burnt on the edges. "I made these for you," she said proudly. "I helped my mom bake last night. She taught me." Mr. Hawthorne took a bite, pretending it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. Emily giggled. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about naming one of our cupcakes. What do you think about calling it the Emily?" Her eyes widened. "Really?" He nodded. "A small cupcake with big love inside." They both laughed. The kind of laugh that heals something inside you. Months passed, seasons changed, but the bakery remained a warm, beating heart in the middle of town. One day, a woman named Sarah came in, tears in her eyes. She held the hand of her son, who had just finished chemotherapy. He was thin, pale, but smiling. "Your shop, it gave my son something to look forward to," she whispered. "When we couldn't afford anything, he still got a cookie here. That made him feel normal." She handed over an envelope. Inside was a check. "We'll finally get back on our feet. We want to give back. Not just to you, but to kids like mine." Mr. Hawthorne placed the check in a donation jar labeled, "For Little Miracles." That night, he sat by the window, lights low, watching the town quiet down. The world outside still had problems. Bills still had to be paid. But in his little corner, he saw what happened when one person chose to be kind without expecting anything in return. A little girl's dream had sparked something bigger than either of them could have imagined. Final scene years later. A new girl walks into the bakery. She's dressed in scrubs, clearly fresh from a hospital shift. She looks around at the framed photos on the wall, kids, cupcakes, hand-drawn thank you cards. She walks up to the counter where a young man now stands. The bakery has changed hands, but the soul of it remains. The young woman points to a cupcake in the display. I'll take one of those. He smiles. The Emily, she nods, her voice soft. Yeah. My mom used to tell me about this place. How someone once gave her a cake when she had nothing. I just got my first paycheck as a nurse. Thought it was time to see it for myself. He hands her the cupcake. On the house, she hesitates, but I can pay. He leans in and smiles. That's what they all say. She takes the cupcake, sits at the window, and looks out. The world outside is still rushing. But inside, there's peace, a bite of sweetness, a memory of kindness, a ripple still moving through time. If this story moved your heart, imagine how many more hearts we can reach together. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next story that reminds us of the beauty in simple kindness. Because sometimes the smallest act changes everything.